Hey guys, good morning. A little Smart News Coffee Talk to get you started on your Monday morning. I know it's a busy one, so here are 3 things that I think you need to know to get started on your week. And it's been a little bit of an eventful weekend, I would say, as we got news that the special counsel concluded their investigation on Friday evening. We talked a little bit about that on Friday morning, in fact, that it potentially could be that we could get news on a Friday night. And indeed, that's exactly what happened. It seems like every time I start this video, I'm getting interrupted.
Mommy.
Yes, darling.
I'm just freezing cold.
You're just freezing cold?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I'm trying to do this with less interruptions, and my kids have been awake since 4:45 this morning. So, yeah, it's been eventful. Okay, so here's what you need to know. The special counsel concluded their investigation. That's the big news. We have not seen the report for their investigation. We don't know the exact take of the special counsel. What we are basing our information on is the Attorney General of the United States, because the special counsel, as they conclude their investigation, turns in a report to him. Then he is responsible for informing Congress that the special counsel has concluded, as well as a few details along with the investigation. And what he did, Attorney General Barr, is he wrote a letter to Congress that was delivered yesterday afternoon. And that included a few excerpts from the report that was generated by the special counsel as they concluded their investigation. And that's how we know 2 major takeaways that are being focused on today. Number 1, there was no collusion between the president and his team and Russia when it comes to the 2016 election. That is what the special counsel concluded. The second thing is that the special counsel took a look at obstruction of justice. I don't want to say charges, allegations, and whether or not the president or anybody else was guilty of obstruction of justice. According to the Attorney General, the special counsel did not make a conclusion one way or the other about whether or not there was obstruction of justice, but presented arguments on either side of the investigation. The Attorney General then said, based on his reading of the report along with his team, they've decided that there were no obstruction of justice charges or evidence of obstruction of justice. So that leaves a little bit of an opening where Congress can say, well, the Justice Department doesn't see evidence of obstruction of justice, but we do, and we're going to continue to investigate. So that's where things stand today. You should know that no one has seen the report. No one knows exactly what the special counsel said. No one knows if the report is 3 pages or 3,000. We have no idea. We're basing this completely on the Justice Department's take on the special counsel investigation report that was delivered. So what does that mean in practicality in your life right now? Well, it means the special counsel investigation is over. And then it also means that there's probably more talk about the investigation to come. Democrats can say, well, there's a little bit opening that we should continue to investigate, and we believe we should. Republicans can say, well, you had a nonpartisan entity spent tens of millions of taxpayers' dollars and came away with the fact that there wasn't enough to say there was evidence of collusion with Russia or evidence of obstruction of justice. So both sides have interesting arguments to stand on today, and nothing immediately will impact the administration right now. Now, there are some other investigations ongoing in federal courts. We're seeing that in New York, for example. Paul Manafort, who is found guilty in federal court, is now will be tried in New York State because likely of evidence that was found during the special counsel investigation. So the president and others could be facing more investigations on a state level, but we don't know all the details of that yet. We know some are ongoing, but again, any immediate impact in your life? No. Some context I think you should know is that Bill Clinton was impeached for lying to Congress and obstruction of justice. He was impeached by the House of Representatives, but the Senate decided that even though he was impeached, that he didn't have to be removed from office. So an obstruction of justice charge, even through Congress, can have wide-sweeping effects and could impact the president someday, but we're a ways away from that. So those are the things that I think you should know. I heard someone, I very seldom turn on the television in the morning. I just turned it on to turn on Sesame Street, actually, and the news was on. And a person on the news, I caught just the end of what they said. They said, there's no evidence of collusion with Russia, but that doesn't mean there's no collusion. And so I just thought, here's something I think you should think about. Like, the sky is blue today. It could be purple tomorrow. It could. I mean, I don't know. There's no evidence of collusion today. Could there be evidence of something else tomorrow? Sure, but let's deal with the reality as we see it today. And the reality today, special counsel concludes their investigation. No collusion with Russia, and the president is no evidence of obstruction of justice charges according to the Department of Justice. There we are. I think what's really important in what we've seen from the report so far, which again is little, but is the interpretation of the Attorney General, is that Russia did indeed try to impact our election in 2016 through hacking and through disinformation campaigns and all sorts of things. And I can't help but wonder if we focus more on Russia over the last 2 years and maybe less on some of the internal politics, what we would find and how that would impact just our perception of what's going on in the American government. So I hope that's a quick little overview for you about what's going on with the special counsel and, again, why it matters to you, or why right now. I mean, this is what we have to go on. So last week we woke up on Monday, the special counsel investigation was still ongoing. This week we wake up, it's not. Okay, there's a change. There's a fact. All right, second thing I think you should know, and these are the two important things that I think really do have the potential to impact your life, is what's going on overseas. We got news this weekend that the final territory held by ISIS in Syria was overtaken by Syrian defense forces backed by the United States of America. So as of right now, ISIS has no more territory in Iraq and Syria. That's a big victory on the one hand. On the other hand, we know that ISIS still exists, but that's at least a mark where the territory that they once held and used to terrorize people is now no longer. In the meantime, we also got news. We talked a little bit about this on Friday, but we know more about it. 2 soldiers were killed in Afghanistan in a combat operation on Friday. And although the military hasn't come out and said directly what they were doing, we're starting to get a picture of what was going on. And it looks like there was a very fierce battle in an area called the Kunduz province. I hope I'm saying that correctly, which is an area that the Taliban had always, over the last several years, had a lot of fierce fighting, wanting to keep territory there. So this sets up a really challenging dynamic. We don't know for sure, but it seems likely, according to the NATO spokesperson that's talked about this particular operation, that these soldiers were killed fighting the Taliban. In the meantime, behind closed doors, the United States is negotiating with the Taliban for some sort of peace settlement that would then lead to our withdrawal from Afghanistan. So on the one hand, we're putting the lives of American soldiers at great risk still to make the ultimate sacrifice for America. On the other hand, behind closed doors, we're negotiating with the very same people that are leading the group that we're fighting. And the reason why we're fighting them is because they're terrorists. So this dynamic is a challenging one. And it's potentially figuring out that dynamic and what comes next, may or may not end America's longest war. How we feel about our wars, how we tell those stories really impact American history, but also just how Americans feel about themselves. This is the men that were killed in this operation. One of them was, it sounds like younger, if you do the math, younger than 10 when 9/11 happened. So these are whole generations of Americans impacted by this war, and a big question about how does it conclude and what's the right way to conclude it. So I just want to make sure that that's on your radar. And then back stateside, just something happening in a state that shows a trend. And this is the final thing I think you should know today. New Jersey is taking a vote today about legalizing marijuana. If they do approve it, which is we have no idea, it seems like the vote is very split, they would be the 11th state to approve it. And there's an article in the Associated Press today about one of the biggest customers for marijuana, or cannabis, if you want to be more sophisticated, I don't know, is the elderly, because, there's reportedly healing properties. So, I don't know. I thought that was sort of interesting. We're seeing more and more states move towards legalization, not only for use, but because they can tax this business. And that's one of the big things that potentially is happening in New Jersey. There's a tax structure set up with the sale, legalized sale, and use of marijuana. So that's happening as well. So 3 things I think you should know today. Special counsel report concludes no one has seen the report. No one, except for the Attorney General and some of his team. Just remember that. Second thing you should know is that a lot's happening overseas when it comes to the war on terror. ISIS has lost territory in Syria, and you have still the battle raging in Afghanistan. 2 soldiers died over the weekend because of these combat operations. And finally, you're seeing the trend, a move towards legalization in a different state today, and that state is New Jersey. All right, guys, have a great day. Hope you're off to a good one so far. Let us know if we can help in any way over at SmartHER News. And check out our website today. We have a couple other additional stories that we're adding in, including a really interesting historical moment that happened today in 1911 in New York City that changed labor laws forever for the rest of us. So check out that card today. All right, guys, I'll talk to you later.